everyone, welcome back to another episode of The History of K-Pop Season 1, where we take a journey through time to learn about some of the most significant first-generation idol groups in the K-pop industry. And one of those significant idol groups that we just started talking about in our last episode is g.o.d. One more significant thing is that we sort of took a different approach from our usual format, if you will, by starting to talk about the members in detail. If you guys watched the last episode, we didn't finish talking about them, so we'll start from there today. Continuing right along with our coverage of this iconic group, we'll discuss the remaining two members of g.o.d, and on top of that, we'll also take you through the ups and downs of their pre-debut story. Like I mentioned in the last episode, we're in for an emotional ride today. Wait, did we already spoil this? So brace yourselves, and without further ado, let's get right into it.
Let's go!
Alright, the next member. Son Ho-young is a lead vocalist and sub-rapper within g.o.d. He is also Korean American, and his English name is Andrew Son. He was arguably the most popular member during g.o.d's early days, as he was well known for his killer smile and his appealing visuals, along with Kye-sang for the latter one. Now, this was a bit of a surprising fact, but while promoting their debut album, he was considered one of the 4 rappers in the group. Keep in mind that g.o.d is a 5-member group, which says that everyone but Tae Woo was assigned as rappers. Eventually, Ho-young was assigned more vocal parts after this album, and by the 3rd album, his position changed to being lead vocalist. And on a related note, he was actually a heavy smoker until g.o.d's 6th album was released in 2004. But he quit to take care of his vocal health after being assigned more parts upon Kye-sang's departure from the group. He also used to suffer from asthma, but again, sought treatment for this, and he now has exceptional lung capacity that enables him to perform multiple g.o.d songs all on his own. This is really impressive since the main vocalist of the group is Tae Woo, who is one monster of a vocalist within the K-pop industry. During his time in g.o.d, he was perceived as one of the more feminine members due to his motherly character and his smiley nature. I mean, just take a look at this. However, he was also known to love exercising and strength training, being perceived to have the most masculine physique in the group. That's quite the polarity, huh? One more thing that Ho-young is also quite well known for is his manners around women, or the ladies, and his kind nature towards fans. It is said that this was due to the influence from his mother and sister, and that he also maintains friendships with many female celebrities as well. On a more somber note, Ho-young's pre-debut stories are rather sad. His parents got divorced when he was young, and he ended up living with his father, who was very strict with him. This caused Ho-young to drift away, and he even ran away from home when he was in grade 11, which led to him living on the street while working part-time jobs. Apparently, he contemplated giving up on life because he was struggling to even get proper meals despite how hard he was working. But during his days of struggle, he somehow met Danny, and we don't know what that somehow is, who was preparing to debut as a part of g.o.d, and Ho-young was then able to join as well. Again, as to how the two met, we weren't able to find out in exact detail, other than the fact that they did somehow meet each other prior to their debut. So we apologize for the lack of information here. Some of you guys might have seen this coming from the previous episode, but unfortunately, Ho-young also suffered through controversy related to military service, just like Danny. Unlike Danny, however, both Ho-young's parents possessed US citizenship, meaning he never possessed Korean citizenship at all. So naturally, Ho-young never possessed dual citizenship either. However, in Korea, he was apparently registered as having dual citizenship by mistake, which is quite shocking that this even happened.
말도 안 돼, 진짜.
In order to rectify the false registration of his citizenship status, Ho-young filed a request with the court and was able to correct his citizenship status in 2005. Unfortunately, this incident didn't end there. Despite the fact that Ho-young never possessed Korean citizenship, this sadly caused a rumor to circulate claiming that he gave up his Korean citizenship in order to evade serving in the military. In response to this rumor, he stated that he would serve in the military after all. Ho-young announced through his agency that he would naturalize to obtain Korean citizenship and serve in the military. Despite his rather official announcement, this ultimately did not happen, and the reason why is unknown from our research. In fact, he is still an American citizen to this day. But regardless of the reasons, this incident resulted in him gaining many anti-fans. If we take a look at the situation a little bit deeper, however, at that time, naturalized citizens were not allowed to serve in the Korean military. Though the military service law did change in 2008 to ultimately allow this, it still didn't mean that naturalized citizens were required to serve in the military. That is, it's still voluntary. Even if Ho-young wanted to voluntarily serve in the military, he would have had to go above and beyond in order to be granted an opportunity to do so. And what do we mean by this? Please let us explain. First and foremost, Ho-young would obviously have to acquire Korean citizenship through naturalization. And this process itself isn't an easy one to go through. According to what my researcher Jay has found from his research, even if Ho-young successfully naturalized as a Korean citizen, he would have been classified as what was called back then Second Militia Service, or Second Citizen Service. Or as of November 30th, 2016, this is referred to as Wartime Labor Service. What this means is that basically, Ho-young would have to provide the wartime labor service instead of fighting as a soldier in the event South Korea is in a war. Or for the context that we're dealing with, it means that Ho-young would not have been granted an opportunity in the military service by law. But like we said earlier, the military law change in 2008 would allow naturalized citizens to serve in the military voluntarily. Except, here is the thing. Potentially being a naturalized citizen would not have been the only reason Ho-young could not serve in the military. Why is that, you might ask? Well, he didn't graduate from middle school. What? Well, technically, he did. But apparently, it was not recognized because he completed his middle school education as an American citizen. We couldn't figure out why Ho-young's American citizenship caused it to not be recognized, since this would have required researcher Jay to research and dig through a whole different topic, which would have taken a very long time. But anyway, because Ho-young's middle school education wasn't recognized, he would have had to write and pass the GED. Now, some people might say he could technically do it if he really wanted to serve in the military. and he definitely would have received a lot of praise if he actually did. But realistically thinking about it though, researcher Jay and I were not sure how many people would go back and study to pass GED for middle school education at the age of nearly 30. Though the middle school education requirement was supposedly removed in 2011, Ho-young would still be classified as a wartime labor service citizen anyway, if he decided to obtain Korean citizenship, which still leaves this voluntary for him. Assuming that the delivered information is all true, it is important to note that Ho-young never evaded military service in any shape or form, as he was not required to serve in the military in the first place. He has not violated the military service and citizenship laws of South Korea, as he is not legally a South Korean citizen, but is in fact an American citizen with no dual citizenship. That means the requirement to serve in the South Korean military does not apply to him at all. While it may have disappointed the general public that Ho-young hasn't kept his promise, we're sure that he has nothing else to be ashamed of.
Let's go! Let's go!
Finally, the last member of g.o.d. The main vocalist of the group, Tae Woo, is also the youngest member of g.o.d. And you might not expect it from the fact that he is the main vocalist of the group, but he is quite a good dancer as well. Oh, and another surprising thing. When Tae Woo was in grade 12, he quite literally stood out due to his height and build, being 190 centimeters tall and on the more burly side. Yeah, it's kind of hard not to stand out with such a physique. Unfortunately, some people used to say that his strength was not necessarily in his visuals, but rather that he has a unique appeal. Objectively speaking, Tae Woo's physique is not typical or supposedly ideal when it came to forming an idol group back in the day.
Back in my day when I was a youth.
And potentially made it difficult to achieve the right balance within the group. I mean, this is him standing with his members. However, he insisted on making Tae Woo the main vocalist of the group, which we would say was a really good choice. Ultimately, typical producers may want to avoid members that stand out in a negative way, but JYP, on the other hand, removed 2 of the original trainees and instead placed Tae Woo in the group. And just letting you guys know, he technically wasn't even in charge of management. As g.o.d started to gain popularity to the point where they rivaled Shinhwa from SM Entertainment, Tae Woo did become popular, but more so with children and elders. So I'm guessing he is the one who displayed the youthful and friendly concept that we mentioned earlier in this episode. And as for the group's female fans, they were said to be most interested in Ho-young, Kye-sang, and Danny. I don't know whether to laugh or cry about this. On an episode of Sepakui, which aired on September 27, 2014, Tae Woo revealed a heartwarming story. He talked about how, at some point, he felt like he was not as popular as other members like Ho-young and Kye-sang because of his appearance, despite the fact that he was such an important part of g.o.d's songs and promotions. Due to this, he started focusing a lot on his fashion style rather than his vocal talent once he started to think that way. Supposedly, Jun once went up to him and said, "Do you think you can become a better looking person than Ho-young and Kye-sang by focusing on your fashion style? People like your voice and singing, and I'm your fan too. g.o.d may disappear in the future, but a song sung by someone named Tae Woo will forever be remembered. so listen to a lot of songs and practice rather than shopping for clothes. After realizing this, Tae Woo then started to focus on what he can do the best as a group member of g.o.d. and as a singer, which ultimately helped him to succeed in his singing career. Oh, there is one last interesting thing we wanted to mention. Tae Woo was actually the only member who was not initially contracted to Sidus HQ, as he was contracted to JYP Entertainment at the time. Now, I know this might sound odd and confusing, but we'll get to all the juicy details later. Alright, so we've gone through all the members, so what's next? Well, it's time to finally take a look at what g.o.d members went through in order to debut.
Let's go!
For those of you who know g.o.d, their pre-debut story is one that is pretty well known, for none other than the extreme struggle the members went through.
It's extreme!
As previously mentioned, the group's initial lineup consisted of 6 members in total, 5 male members and 1 female member. At this time, the group was named g.o.d 6, and of course, Tae Woo was not yet included. Oh, and if that name sounds quite familiar to some of you, the name g.o.d 6 would eventually be slightly modified, alphabetically and mathematically, and reused for one of JYP Entertainment's more recent groups, g.o.d 7. It is speculated that this original lineup of g.o.d 6 was planned sometime in 1997, but as we've alluded to many times already in this series, the IMF crisis occurred in Korea that same year. Under those circumstances, Sidus HQ's financial situation was also not in a good state, which really isn't surprising, especially if you know what the IMF crisis did to a lot of big Korean corporations. Anyhow, this led to the members' dorm being moved to what is essentially the countryside, where they were told to practice and live by yourself. Yeah. And that wasn't the end of it. Soon thereafter, the agency cut off all support and was no longer in contact with the members. Hold on. This sounds like it's getting worse? I know this may have triggered some of you guys, but let's at least hear about what the agency had to say about this. Supposedly, yes, supposedly, Sidus HQ was no longer able to debut the group but could not bring themselves to tell the members the truth about the situation. Okay. The CEO believed that by moving them all to the middle of nowhere for an extended period of time, or in other words, for an indefinite amount of time, the members would eventually want to leave by their own accord. I mean, we get that the agency itself was struggling, but they shouldn't have treated their trainees in this way. Just imagine how outraged the public would be if anything similar happened in today's generation, especially with the average trainee's age getting younger and younger. Anyway, to no one's surprise, the members were unaware of this entire situation because no one told them anything.
Calm down. Calm down. Whoa.
As a result, they ended up living and supporting themselves for that extended period of time. Can anyone guess how long this extended period of time lasted for these trainees? Well, according to our research, it was around 6 months.
What?
To paint you a picture of their experience, there were literal graves behind their dorm, which was probably the smallest complaint they may have had. And they had to walk about an hour to the nearest hospital to wash up, because their water pipes froze during the winter. Being able to eat a hamburger turned into a dream, and if they got their hands on one, it had to be divided among them equally. But usually, they ate a single instant ramen over multiple days, which both researcher Jay and I do not understand how. And sometimes, they even had to go about obtaining food in an unusual way. Was this the AD 1990s or BC 1900s? This sounds really rough. Being quite honest here, when my researcher Jay was doing the research and I read over his notes to write this script, we were quite shocked, and that's putting it nicely. At this point, you guys might be asking, is this the worst they've gotten over that 6 months? No. Because over time, the members' financial situation worsened to the extent where it became a matter of survival. In order to remedy that, Jun took on the responsibility of earning some money. Fortunately, he landed a job as an extra in the 90s sitcom Sunpung Sanbuingwa. Thanks to Jun's hard work, the members were able to buy food for another month, which mostly consisted of instant ramen and canned tuna. These two foods really do make it sound like a matter of survival. For real. Around 6 months after the members had moved in, or were dropped off in the middle of nowhere, the agency's financial situation had improved. The CEO had carelessly assumed the dorm would have been empty by this point, and sent employees over to clean it up. But to their shock, dramatic irony, they encountered the 6 members still making ends meet in the dorm. The CEO was very touched when he learned that the members had remained in place, after suffering, as we described previously, and that they had waited for the entire 6 months. And he ultimately decided to arrange for their debut because of this. Oh, by the way, another message from my researcher Jay says, I assume, and would like to believe, that the CEO actually felt sorry before he felt touched. And I can't disagree there. After all of their struggles, it looked like only great things were going to come along as the group was preparing to debut. But unfortunately, things took another twist. When preparing to debut the group, the Sidus HQ CEO invited our good old JYP to work with them as a main producer. For whatever the reason was, decided not to maintain the original lineup. In the end, he ultimately removed the female vocalist and the male rapper and replaced them with Tae Woo from his own agency, famously known as JYP Entertainment. As we mentioned before, he was the only member in the group who did not have a contract with Sidus HQ. Anyway, when this happened, the 4 remaining members were extremely angry with JYP. Understandably so, as he had basically kicked out 2 members who endured hardships with them for an extended period of time, and then brought in a random person to join the group. They actually ended up bullying Tae Woo, though we don't stand by bullying under any circumstances, and were determined to bring the other 2 members back into the group. Because of this rather understandable outrage, JYP told Tae Woo that if other members' rage persisted for more than a month and a half, he would have to send him back to his hometown. But that rage was caused by JYP himself, so I don't understand why Tae Woo had to deal with it. But anyhow, Tae Woo did everything he could to change how the members felt about him, and I can't blame him, because no one wants to receive all that hate, right? Anyway, the action which Tae Woo took ultimately succeeded in bringing the members together. Now, here is a mini quiz time. What did Tae Woo do to soothe the members' rage? I'll give you guys 10 seconds to leave your guesses in the comments down below.
10 seconds later.
Alright, time is up. And the answer is... Tae Woo showed his willingness to share with them. Now, what did he share, you might ask? Well, Tae Woo came to Seoul with 300,000 won, or the equivalent of $300 US back then, in his possession. Realizing that there was nothing to eat in the dorm, he confessed the fact that he had money in his possession to June and handed the money over to them. And this resulted in the members going for their much delayed grocery shopping for bags of chips. From that point onward, the members began to treat Tae Woo better, and later revealed that if Tae Woo had not shared his money like this, he would not have become a member of g.o.d. So that was a well-spent $300? Finally, the members were able to focus on producing their debut album with JYP. But their hardships did not end there. And I really can't believe they didn't. Apparently, and unfortunately, Sidus HQ's investment went towards the group's music production rather than towards g.o.d's basic living needs. But we held our horses this time before getting angry again. Because during this time, agencies were typically not responsible for maintaining their artists' quality of life. When fans learned through a reality TV show that g.o.d was literally going hungry on a daily basis, which of course is not something fans would like to find out through a TV show, they sent the members rice and side dishes so that they had something to eat. And the members later claimed that it was really their fans that fed them. More recently, Jun visited the group's old dorm during an episode of his YouTube channel, What's Up Man, and was reminiscing about old memories with the early days of g.o.d.
Back in my day when I was a youth.
If you guys are interested in checking out where it was and Jun's reaction upon his visit there, I'll leave the link to that episode in the description below. Not to promote Jun's YouTube channel or anything, but I'd highly recommend you guys give this episode a watch. Trust me, it's pretty darn hilarious. Well guys, we made it through yet another episode of the History of K-pop series. After finishing our coverage of each member and what they had to go through to debut, I'm left wondering what there is that g.o.d can't push through. All in all, this episode definitely had some ups and downs we spoiled, more so than other episodes up to this point. And as you guys might have noticed, we personally had a lot of ups and downs during this episode while learning about g.o.d's pre-debut story. But that was researcher Jay and I. How about you guys? What did you think of their pre-debut story? And do you think you would have given up or persevered like they did? Completely being honest here, I don't know if I could have survived like that.
No.
No?
No. Never? Never, never.
But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And please leave any questions you have throughout the season on any particular video in the series, as we are planning to have a special review or Q&A episode at the end of this season. Oh, and please let us know what we might have missed in today's video, or if anything needs to be corrected. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you want to tune in next time, and remember to stay awkward. Bye.